Hello everyone. Today we will discuss the topic Contemporary India Challenges to Peace and National Integration. In this chapter, we will basically discuss about the challenges which came as an obstacle and a basic objective of the government to settle down the issue of peace, stability and national integration. So firstly, we will discuss about what is nation. So when we say nation, generally nation is the community that is bound together by the feeling of unity and oneness based on certain factors. Whereas the term nation gives birth to the term again that is nationalism, which is again a sense of political identity. They gain a sense of identity and self-esteem by this identification. It's a force that creates the feeling of oneness in a community based on ethnicity, race, religion, and other factors. So overall, we can say that nationalism is the feeling of oneness or it is a sense of political identity which is based on community, ethnicity, religion, and other factors. Next, we move to the concept of role of state. Now we know the state has to perform many functions, many roles. So what is the first and foremost role of state is that maintaining peace and order. The state ensures peace and order in the society. The core purpose of the state is protection. By these, we mean to say that it is the foremost responsibility of the state to maintain peace and order, because any kind of development cannot take place with an unstable form of government. Therefore, the concept of security and survival of the state, protection of its constitution and political order is one of the key roles of the state. Next, we will discuss the concept of melting pot and salad bowl. The concept, for firstly, we will understand what is the concept of melting pot. Now, when we say melting pot in this chapter, it is hinting towards the American society. So it was basically the concept used to describe the American society. Anyone who enters the American society is automatically thrown into the pot where a process of assimilation into the American belief system takes place. So overall, we can say that the American society is a melting pot. It's a huge pot, and whichever nations, whichever people enters into this pot gets accumulated by its culture. The concept, whereas on the opposite, we have the concept of salad bowl. The concept of salad bowl does not talk of melting identities. It argues that every distinctive culture or belief is considered to be one of the taste and ingredient rather that contributes in forming the whole. Therefore, its original shape and characteristics are maintained. So when we say salad bowl, it means that we take all the nation, all its culture, all its identities. We are not ignoring any nation, any culture. Therefore, these two concepts are very important in the study of global world, that is the concept of melting pot and salad bowl. Next, we move the common values of national integration. Now, when we say national integration, it's basically it has some values, that is common citizenship, unity in diversity, feeling of loyalty to the nation, a sense of fraternity among all the communities, secularism, social, political, and economic justice, and equality. So these are all the values which constitute the idea of national integration. That means which helps us to attain national integration, because the concept itself, national integration means unity. And for that, to attain that unity, we need these values. National integration in context of India. So when we are talking about national integration, we will talk in context of India. In India, the values of secularism, democracy, economic development, and social change emerged due to the movement of nationalism. The first task of India after independence was to preserve, consolidate, and strengthen its unity. So, being a diverse country, India's foremost challenge was how to maintain its unity in diversity. And therefore, our constitution has imbibed in it the values of secularism, democracy, culture, development, and social change due to the movement of nationalism. Democracy was considered essential for promoting national integration and bringing about social change. Since we had diverse society, the value of democracy was given foremost importance because it helped in promoting national integration and bringing about social change. So that is what about national integration in context of India. Now, when we study state, we have different dimensions. We will talk about the different dimensions of the state. That is first the structural dimension. So when we say the structural dimension, it is about the structure of the state, about the form of government the state has, what kind of political party the government has. So the points which we can include is that the core of the structural dimension was the creation of the democratic system with a universal adult franchise. The participation of the diverse group in the process was possible only through the representative democratic system. That is what the type of government the country has, the type of dimension it will depict. For example, if a country has a democratic system of government, it will imbibe in its all the democratic principles and values inside it. The Constitution also provides a federal structure with a strong central government. The participation of local bodies was further strengthened through the Panchayati Raj system of 1973 and 74. Again, the landmark change which we had in India was the 1973 and 1974 constitutional amendments, which gave the birth of the local bodies and the establishment of Panchayati Raj system, strengthening the division of powers, that is between the state government, central government and the local level government. So that is all about the structural dimension. Next, we move to one more important dimension, that is the psychological dimension. When we say psychological dimension, it's more or less the emotional unity or the psychological unity among the people. So the national freedom movement played an important role in bringing together politically and economically into a nation and integrating them in a common framework of political identity and loyalty. From this, we can understand that during the national movement, the people united together and they fought for the freedom of nation. At that time, people forgot about the differences. That means they were mentally, they were psychologically united. The feeling of oneness, the nationalistic feeling of Indian people helped India to attain the freedom. So the overall psychological dimension means the unity regarding the psychological unity among the people, which, which, which takes place due to the inculcating of values like equality, secularism, and democratic principles. Moving from the dimension, now we move to the challenges to Indian national integration. So apart from the concept of national integration and the national integration in India, now we come to the challenges that what stands in the way to attain national integration. So some of the obstacles which India had faced were, one of the challenges which India faced was the integration of princely states in the Indian Union. The issue of Jammu and Kashmir experienced the first conflict with Pakistan, and it continues to be the issue of peace and stability in the region. So after independence, the first and foremost challenge was the integration of princely states into the Indian Union. So we know that there were many princely states which were not willing to merge with the Indian Union, and therefore this was the first challenge. Secondly, the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, which continues to be a challenge to national integration even today. The conflict with Pakistan. So all these stood up as a big challenge to Indian national integration. Moving ahead from Kashmir, we have the Northeast insurgency, that is in the Northeast, Nagaland has posed a problem that was eventually resolved. That is, Nagaland has protested for a separate statehood, and that again posed a challenge to national integration. Apart from the separatist movement, we had the Nehru era of Indian politics ended with Lal Bahadur Shastri taking over the premiership to be followed by Mrs. Indira Gandhi. This period saw the growth of regional political parties, and again the 1960s also saw the rise of peace and class movement known as Naxalism. So apart from these challenges, we had that the Nehru era of Indian politics ended, followed by Mrs. coming of Mrs. Indira Gandhi in the Indian politics, and 1977 again saw the growth of regional parties, the decline of the Congress party and the growth of regional parties. And the 1960s, we saw the rise of peace and class movement, that is the Naxalism. Again, the Naxalism stood up as a big challenge to national integration. The influx of refugees to East Pakistan had been the late 60s and led to creation of Bangladesh. Other demands by Punjab, Khalistan, then assassination of Indira Gandhi, were first such political assassination, a direct use of force to tackle the Punjab agitation. So apart from the previous challenges, we have this influx of refugees that from East Pakistan to India, then the assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and then the demand by Punjab for a separate Khalistan. All this stood up as a major challenge to national integration. Again, the most important, the religious conflict between Hindus and Muslims regarding the Ayodhya Ram Janambhoomi and the Babri Masjid issue in 1992 came replied in the form of the Mumbai riots, brought new dimension to militancy in India. So it's still a very major concern for the challenges to national integration today, which continued till 21st century. That was the religious conflict between Hindus and Muslims regarding the Ayodhya and the Babri Masjid dispute. So these were some of the challenges of national integration in India. Next, we move to the concept of left-wing extremism in India. So what do we mean by left-wing extremism? Which when we say left-wing extremism, we are pointing towards a movement of a group of people, a group of landless laborers, peasants, which was known as the Naxalite movement in India. The Naxalite movement that is now referred as the Maoist movement has its base in the landless labor, peasants, Dalits and tribal communities. And it was first started in a village called Naxalbari in West Bengal at an ideological level, and the roots can be traced back to the writings of Charu Majumdar, whose articles were based on the ideas of Marx, Lenin and Mao. So overall, the Naxalite movement started in a place called Naxalbari in West Bengal and by a group of landless agriculture farmers, peasants and Dalits and tribal communities who together came and they started protesting against the government. And the leader who took forward this movement was Charu Majumdar, who was also known for writing slashing articles against the central government's rule over the people of the tribal communities and the Dalits and the landless laborers. Left-wing extremism took forward the ideologies of Marxism, Leninism and Maoism. So let's see what does the ideology of Maoism say first. So Maoism was basically the ideology of China, which is followed by the Communist Party of China. China followed Maoism when he became the leader in 1949. So Maoism strongly opposed capitalism as Marxism and Leninism. So when we talk about these three ideologies, Marxism, Maoism and Leninism, almost they are same. Their ideology is always opposed to the capitalist class. The Maoism believed in guerrilla warfare, which stated that power could be seized by violent revolution for a short duration. So the concept of Maoism believed in guerrilla warfare, that is attacking the central government by violent revolution for a short duration. And then Mao wanted to bring revolution simultaneously, once against imperial rule and the other against feudal landlord. So two challenges were there between the people from the Maoist movement, that was the protest against the imperial rule and the other against the feudal landlords. So the feudal landlords were those landlords who were exploiting the landless farmers and agricultural peasants. Moving ahead with the next ideology, that was Leninism. Again, the basic ideology remains the same, that is opposition to the capitalist class. Leninism is the idea of dictatorship of the proletariat led by the revolutionary Vanguard Party as the political prelude to the establishment of communism. The only difference between Leninism, which Leninism is different from Maoism and Marxism, is that it supported the formation of political party, Vanguard political party, and they supported which ideology was basically a modification of Marxism, that is bringing Marxism up to date. So Leninism and Marxism and Maoism almost are same. The only difference is that Leninism started with the concept of the formation of political parties, making the concept of Marxism more up to date and more modern. Leninism, similarly, like Marxism, held that the state was a capitalist organization which was used by the capitalists to crush the workers